Hey everybody, since I was always known for my legs, I got a lot of questions over the years about what I've done to build them, what I did, what kind of workouts. So today I'm going to take you through one of those workouts that has some good footage of that my friend Hector Mendoza with Muscular Development took 4 years ago down in Tennessee. Going to guide you through that and then take your questions and comments, but especially I'm here for any questions about leg training you have, leg training. So let's get right into it, guys. First thing I would always do is a warm-up, a general warm-up. It's important for anything you're training, but especially legs. You really want to get your core temperature up. You want to get that blood flowing, warmth and heat and blood going around your joints, your knees, your hips, your ankles, all the moving parts that are going to be working hard during your leg workout. I do 5 to 10. I typically tend to do more like 10. And I say moderate because it shouldn't be too easy. Shouldn't be too difficult either. You should definitely get your heart rate up a little bit. Your breathing rate will be up too. But you're not trying to exhaust yourself before the leg workout. You just want to get your legs and your whole body prepared, but particularly get that warmth and blood around the knee joints, especially the knees. All you older guys out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Your knees are going to be critical over the long term when it comes to leg training. You want to keep those healthy, guys. Definitely want healthy, strong knees. Okay, so next up, always want to do some type of leg curl. I actually usually do 2. So here I was doing a single leg standing leg curl. So when I say 4 sets, that would be 4 sets for each leg. Or I would do 4 sets on a seated leg curl or a lying leg curl. Honestly, I like to do both. I like to do hamstrings with 2 different leg curl movements. I like the lying leg curl because I get a better stretch on that. And I like either standing, kneeling one like this or a seated leg curl where you emphasize the contraction. But definitely, guys, you want to train your hamstrings first on leg day. I found that over the years, in my younger years, my quads were vastly outpacing my hamstrings in both size and strength because I was doing them after quads. When you do that, your hamstrings never really have a fighting chance to catch up. And the quads keep getting ahead and ahead and ahead. Eventually it can lead to a hamstring tear just because of the imbalance. But structurally and the way, just cosmetically, it looks awful when you have these huge quads and flat hams. So I found also that hamstring training before quads does not impair the quad training. You're still going to have a great quad workout. You'll still have plenty of energy. But if you do all your quad work first, your squats, your hacks, your leg presses, extensions, lunges, whatever, and then you come and do your hamstrings at the end, you have very little energy left, very, very little attention and focus on the hamstrings in comparison, and they will keep getting behind. So some people like to do them on a separate day. I was doing that for a while, but eventually the best strategy for me and for most people that I've worked with and spoken to is to just do hamstrings, but do them first on the same day you're doing the entire leg. That works out very well for me. Okay, so next up, I would do leg abductor and adductor. But if you're only going to do one, guys, definitely do the adductor where your legs are squeezing together. This works your inner thighs. A lot of us realize after a few years of leg training that our inner thighs are pretty weak comparison to the rest of our thighs. The development's just not there. Now, you could be doing sumo squats or wide stance leg presses to train it, but working them directly works very, very well. It was actually Dante Trudell of DC Training who impressed upon me how valuable these could be. You know, he saw some pictures of me on stage and he said, your inner thighs, they're just not very good. You need to get very strong on a leg adductor, which, you know, a lot of us meatheads think that's a girl exercise. I'm not going to do that. It's not a very macho, manly exercise. We call it the bad girl, the good girl, because you're squeezing your legs together. However, I got very strong on those over a couple years, and sure enough, I built up those inner thighs, the thigh adductors, so that you have complete leg development. Very, very important. You don't want to just have big quads and no hams and calves, and you want the whole leg, every aspect of the leg, front to back, side to side, fully developed. So always do that. And I would do also the adductors. I don't have that pictured, but that's the one where you start in the middle and you bring your legs apart. That works a little bit of that outer thigh and especially that glute on the side. Important to have full development. So next up, in my younger years, I always squatted. I don't have footage here of me squatting. What I have is a pendulum squat from, this is the Arsenal Strength version. So you could do squats. And I recommend that if you can squat, that you do squat. Squats are still the very best exercise. But if for whatever reason you have issues with lower back or knees and you can't really squat very much or comfortably, use a squatting machine or a Smith machine squat. Just get a good range of motion, nice depth. Don't bounce out of the bottom. Control the reps. Great compound movement. Nothing will ever take the place of squats or a squat type of movement. The pendulum squat's very difficult. I find it very humbling to see how little weight you can do on that in comparison to something like the leg press, of course, or even a hack squat. So squat or squat machine. If, like I said, when I say 4 sets, all these recommendations here, they're not including warm-ups. You definitely always want to do a couple warm-up sets, progressively heavier with higher reps, leading into your work sets, and then, of course, you start on that. So next up, I would always do always squats or a squat variation, and then some type of machine. Usually a leg press or a hack squat. I have some footage here of a hack. I didn't get the leg press, but the squat, because you needed to have all the powers of coordination and balance, especially with the free bar squat or barbell squat, to keep that balance. I did that first. And then now that the thighs are fatigued, I would move on to a machine where you're locked into a position. You don't have to balance any weights. So the hack squat was always a real favorite of mine. I loved hack squats for years and years. I started doing them again fairly recently. They can be tough on the knees if you're not biomechanically set up to do hack squats, but experiment with different foot positions, different foot placements on the platform, how narrow or wide your feet are on the platform. Shoulder width and toes slightly turned out always worked very well for me. And I found that hacks did a great job of really isolating the quads. I built a lot of my quads, I honestly believe, were from hack squats. So this was my top set on that day. This was 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. January 2020, down in Nashville, Tennessee, at the Carbon Culture Gym. Bumstead was there. A lot of top stars were there for that grand opening. It was Brandon Curry's gym. The late John Meadows was there. Yeah, we had a good crew there that day. So you see, I would go down until the machinery stopped. Like you literally couldn't go any further. And I recommend you do the same. If you have to go much lighter to accomplish that, don't hesitate. Never sacrifice weight for range of motion and form. You're always better off getting a nice full range of motion, controlling the weight, hitting that target muscle. That's what it's all about. So hack squats, again, if you can do them with no knee pain, and most people can, I find that if you have a lot of knee pain doing them, you're probably just not warmed up enough, or you need to find a different foot position on the platform. Okay, so I would also do, I'm going to get rid of that. I would also do some type of stiff leg deadlift or Romanian deadlift. Romanian deadlifts are where there's a little bend in the knee. Stiff leg deadlifts, obviously, your knees are locked out straight. You can do these Romanian deadlifts with a barbell, dumbbells, even a T-bar row. I'm going to show you these. Here we go. Oops, nope. Banner. Romanian deadlift, yeah. So I liked quarters so that I could get a little lower, 25s rather than 45s, so I could get a deeper stretch of the hamstrings. You can see it's not a stiff leg. I am bending. I'm not bending as much as I would during an actual conventional deadlift, but I am getting a really good stretch of the hamstrings on every rep. You know, and if you have lower back issues, I find dumbbells are better. They're at your side, and you're able to keep a flatter back, a slight arch in the back, but you never, ever want to round your back on any kind of deadlift, be it a Romanian or stiff leg deadlift for your hamstrings or a full deadlift for your back. Never let that lower back, the lumbar back, round. You always want to keep a slight arch in it, keep everything nice and locked in and tight. Okay. So after that, I would move on to a leg extension. Now, leg extensions are something I used to do early in the workout, first thing in the workout for many years. I figured out after a few years when I was starting to get knee pain because I was putting so much strain on the tendon. The knee is a single joint movement, single joint. It's not a compound movement where you're coming, you're involving the hips and all that, like a squat or a leg press where you're pushing and, unbending the leg. This is simply a hinge movement of the leg, a leg extension. As a single joint movement, it's not meant to be done very, very heavy. And if you do leg extensions very, very heavy for a period of years, I guarantee you're going to have serious knee issues. I honestly believe there were a lot of factors that went into my quad tear, but years of very heavy leg extensions probably did contribute to weakening that quadricep tendon, which eventually did snap, and my quad came completely off on the last day of August in 2023. But keep the reps nice and controlled. Don't need to go any lower than 12 reps. This is not I want to say it's not a mass building exercise. Every exercise with resistance can build mass, but it's not meant to be a super heavy exercise. So if you can't do 12 good reps with it, back off on the weight. Do something, pick a weight you can do 12 minimum. And I would go most of my leg extension sets have been in the 15 to 20 rep range with a good squeeze at the top and nice controlled lowering for the negative. Okay. And the last thing I would do, leg extension, get that out of there. I would take a good 5-10 minutes for stretching. I didn't film the entire stretching routine that I go through here, but I believe to keep your mobility, keep nice and flexible. And of course, there is that theory of fascial stretching that John Perillo came up with probably 40 years ago, over 40 years ago now, closer to 50 years ago. Dante of DC Training incorporated a lot of loaded stretching in his program. Hani Rambod FST7 is based on stretching the fascia through a great pump. But I do believe in really aggressively stretching. Of course, you never want to do anything ballistic where you could tear a muscle. And I always believed in stretching after the workout when the muscle's nice and warm and gorged with blood. Don't want to do it in the beginning when you're cold because it's like a rubber band, your connective tissues. You take a warm rubber band and you could stretch it, a couple feet. You take a cold rubber band that's been out in the freezing cold for a couple hours or more, pull it apart and it snaps. So stretching to me is always done after the workout. That's when I feel it's the most valuable. It's the safest. It's the most beneficial. So after leg training, I stretch everything out: the quads, the hams, the glutes. I didn't show calf training in this video, guys, but I do obviously recommend training the calves. But take your time. Go, look around on YouTube. You'll find some good stretching tutorials. It's something a lot of guys don't do because they're in a rush. The workout's done. They want to get out of there. But it's going to help you prevent injuries. It's going to maintain more mobility and flexibility. And I honestly do believe it helps promote more muscle growth because that fascia that covers our skeletal muscle tissue, it's tougher on a molecular level than stainless steel. So breaking it up a little bit with that stretching while the muscle is fully pumped, I honestly do believe it contributes toward some really good growth that you wouldn't otherwise see. So let's get to some questions, guys. Let's get rid of that banner. Okay, questions and comments. Let's go. Here we go. Squat is king. Yeah, Goku. I would, just because you see someone who's older, 55. I probably got away from squatting by the time I was 50, 51 because I was getting knee pain in my lower back. Mainly my lower back was just not letting me squat much more than 225, which for my legs was very, very light, but for my lower back it was a strain, even with the belt on and a powerlifting belt and all that. But if you're young, if you're healthy, even if you're older and you're healthy, your lower back, your knees, definitely squat. Nothing is going to take the place of a squat. Good old-fashioned barbell squat. Millions and millions of men and women over the past 50 years have developed so much leg size and strength through the barbell squat. It's used in strength training by every professional sport. You're not going to find too many sports where the athletes aren't squatting as part of their strength training. It's just an essential core movement. It's the most natural thing we do as babies. We squat. You see babies squatting up and down to pick things up. So it's something that innately we're designed to do. Squat down, stand up. Get down, get up. Kia Gup Major, KY Jop, KY Gop. I don't know. Building legs has always been difficult for me. I have huge glutes, so I assume they just take over when I was younger. Did very heavy squats, never had big legs. That's a good point you make there, because you can be what we call a quad squatter or a glute squatter. It's all about foot placement, the way your knees track over your feet. You really have to find the form for you where you're feeling it more in the quads. For most people, that's going to be more of a narrow stance. When I say narrow, I don't mean like your feet together, but shoulder width or just beyond shoulder width. Typically, if your legs are fairly far apart, it's going to be a lot of glutes. Also notice the more forward lean your torso has as you squat, the more your glutes are going to be involved in. This is what you see in powerlifters who are trying to squat the most weight possible. Very wide foot stance, very pronounced forward lean of the torso, because their goal is simply to move as much weight in that squat down to parallel, get the thumbs up or the green light from the judge, and stand back up. You'll notice a lot of powerlifters, they don't have massive quads like you would expect when you see the weights they're moving. A lot of them do have these huge glutes, though, huge gorilla butts. I had both. My son, he kind of has both, and I could see that his glutes are taking over. In fact, a couple times when I've posted Instagram reels of my son training, people have remarked that he seems to be targeting a lot more glutes with his squats. However, his quads are growing at the same time. If the glutes were getting way out of proportion compared to the quads, and I saw a need to correct it, I would force him to switch up his form. But for now, I'm going to leave it alone. 10 sets of 20 for legs, all you need. Yeah, I mean, legs are something that they can take a lot of volume. They can put up with a lot more volume, say, than something like your shoulders or your chest. Back is comparable, it's probably the closest upper body muscle group is to legs as far as how much volume it can tolerate and how much volume is going to still be productive for it. But if you're in there for 3 hours training legs, either you're doing way too much, too many exercises, too many sets, or you're just taking a lot of time between sets and farting around, playing with your phone, talking to people, walking around the gym, getting a drink every 2 seconds. So another thing is Dorian Yates made a point in a post a couple months ago that I realized made a lot of sense, is you don't want to drink a lot of water while you're training legs. I'm not saying don't drink water. Believe me, I'm not going to tell you to dehydrate yourself. That's very dangerous as well. But you don't want to have a stomach full of fluid sloshing around when you're training legs. It's just not very comfortable because, as you know, your torso is getting compressed during things like squats, leg presses, hack squats. So you don't want to have a lot of water sloshing around in your tummy. Just drink enough. Sips of cold water here and there. Enough so that you're not thirsty, you're not getting a dry mouth or parched or anything like that, but you don't want to be guzzling water unless you're in a very hot situation. You're in Metroflex gym and it's August and it's 120 degrees and there's no air conditioning. Obviously, you have to always drink enough to reflect the environment you're in. If you're in an environment where it's very hot and humid, or even hot and dry, it doesn't matter. Heat is heat. You definitely want to make sure you're hydrated, because bad things can happen when you're dehydrated, as you know. That's Greek. I can't read Greek. It looks a lot like Cyrillic that the Russians write in. I was squatting 405 for 5 reps. So I was chasing strength until I felt something in my lower back. The last few months, I start my workout with leg curls and extensions. Then I go to Bulgarian split. Yeah, that's another thing. Oh, no, there was more. And then I squat, I use wedges, and I'm able to squat 200 pounds for 12. My legs grow. Yeah. The rep range is something that's very much worth talking about here for a minute, because legs have a mix of fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers. We know that they're designed for endurance. Our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. They had to walk long distances all the time. They were migrant. They migrated all over Africa, Europe, the places where early man foraged for food and hunted. So we're designed, our legs were, if you believe in intelligent design, our legs are meant to be able to carry us for long distances and keep going and going and going. They also need to have quick bursts of strength, because if you're hunting or if you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger or a herd of woolly mammoths, you need to sprint. You need to haul some ass. So we're able to sprint. We're able to do both. That's why I believe the legs, they respond very well to a nice blend of rep ranges. I wouldn't say just do low reps or just do high reps. You need to do both. So in my younger years, I did a lot of lower rep sets for squats. When I say lower, in the 4 to 6 range. I also did 10 to 12. I'd say those are my 2 rep ranges for squats. On leg presses, that's because my back was supported. That's the one I would always go higher on the reps, 20 reps, 25, sometimes 30, sometimes even 50 reps on leg press once in a great while. But definitely the 15 to 20 rep range on machines. And with the barbell, where I wanted to really go heavy and put the most emphasis on my quads with a very basic free weight movement, I was never doing more than 12 reps on those. Good reps, always down to parallel or a little below. I used to go actually well below parallel for my squats. Parallel is fine though. Many studies have now been done that showing going below parallel, where your femur bone, your thigh bone, is parallel to the ground, there's no extra benefit. Your quads don't grow anymore. They don't get any bigger or stronger if you go any lower than that. I just did it because that's what felt comfortable to me. Goku Luffy, ass to grass would grow legs most, but most people aren't willing to do that because not too many can do that with heavy weight. That's true. A lot of people don't have the ankle flexibility, which is something we don't hear about very often, but it's a very real thing, and it can be a limiting factor for some people. Our ankles, this is the foot, this is the ankle in my little analogy here. If you have very flexible ankles, you're able to go into that very low position on a squat. And I do believe if you can go low, there is a little extra benefit, even if these studies don't. You're still going to be involving a little bit more hamstring and glute when you go below parallel. You're involving them more. However, you want hams and glutes too. You want quads, hams, glutes, calves. You want everything in that lower body to be fully developed. Glutes, hams, quads, calves, adductors, all the muscle groups you want to be developed in proportion to each other, not just for the sake of being a aesthetically pleasing bodybuilder in terms of your physique, but in terms of functionality. You don't want any one muscle group overpowering in strength either, because that can lead to injury. A lot of hamstring tears have happened to athletes when they're sprinting as part of their practice or during a game, because the quads are so much stronger in proportion. And it's just I don't know the physics of it, but it's not a good thing to have them so out of balance like that. Any other questions? Go back to any more video. I don't know. Let's go back to, just want to make a point about that pendulum squat, if I can find it. So this is like the most humbling machine. I don't think it's any different necessarily than hack squats in terms of what they do for your quads, but because you're in space and you're free, it does feel more like an actual squat to me. You see, I'm still able to get a really good range of motion on these. So if your gym has one and you've just been kind of passing it by, walking by and thinking, definitely give it a try. In fact, every piece of leg equipment in your gym, you should try at least once, just to see if you like it, how it feels, where you feel it, because you don't want to miss out on anything that's available to you. And some gyms have a lot more and better leg equipment. I'm very fortunate. I go to a place called Bayshore Athletic Club, Braintree, Massachusetts, where such a nice variety of leg equipment that we get people from all over the area on the weekends, particularly. They come just to train legs there. They pay the day fee, the day pass, and they train legs, because we have like 20 different leg presses, probably like 10 different kinds of leg presses, a couple different types of hack squats, 12 squat racks, 8 Smith machines. We have all kinds of stuff for legs, all kinds of pendulum squat, linear hack squat, a Rogers squat machine. It's if you have that wide variety of equipment at your gym and you haven't really tried everything out and given it a chance, you could be missing out on something that's going to be very, very productive for you. So I do encourage you to do that. Any more questions? Usually when I'm saying goodbye, I get all the questions. Going to be doing a power hour tomorrow with Giles. We're going to throw some cool topics around. But I guess that's it, guys, unless we get another comment or question. That has been it for my quickest way to build big legs. So to sum it up, always warm up, always do leg curls and hamstrings first. I would. So you give them proper time and attention, effort, and energy. Then I would move into your free weight movement, whether it's a squat, some squat or squat variation. Squats, front squats are the best if you can do those. Yeah, wide stance for adductors. Oh, there's more questions. Yeah, so abductors. Now, abs are the ones that go away. Abs are the outside of your thighs. So adductors with 2 Ds. I know it sounded the same. The way I thought of it when I was taking the personal training certification course 25 years ago was abs away, abs away. So abductors are when you're bringing your legs apart. Adductors are when you're squeezing your legs together, and that works the inner thighs. But like I said, wide stance on compound movements, a squat, hack squat, leg press especially is a good way to train them. A very good compound movement for the adductors, the inner thighs, is doing the leg press, but having your feet higher up on the platform and wider on the platform. That's going to be almost all hams and glutes, very little quadricep. You'll notice when you take your feet down lower on the platform, bring them in closer together, now you're going to be activating more quadriceps. Do you use the same weight on sets? No. I usually pyramid up in weight. Yeah, here we go. So the second part of your question, pyramid each set, working set. Yeah, I did use a logbook for a good 20 years, and I was always trying to beat the logbook. Now that I'm not really capable of getting stronger in most exercises, I sort of topped out. I'm actually not using as much weight in a lot of things as I used to for various reasons at age 55. But yes, I would pyramid. So just to use squats as an example, I would start with the bar for 20 reps. This is back in the old days. When I was a really strong squatter, this is a typical progression that I would do. The bar for 20 reps, then I would throw a 45 on for 15 reps. That's 135 pounds. A quarter on, a 25 to make it 185. I would do 12 reps on that. My final warm-up set would be 225 for 10. And until then, I didn't count anything as a work set. First work set would probably be 275, so 245s and a quarter. I would do that for 10. So I kept the reps the same. So the first set wasn't that hard. 315 for 10, 365 for 10. And that was tough. And then the all-out set, my fourth and final set would be the heaviest, would be like 405 for 10. And that would be very, very difficult for me to complete even back in the day. Calf training. That's good because I didn't talk about calf training at all. So I do believe in emphasizing those. There's a variety of ways to do your calf reps. You could do just simply up, down with no pause at all. You could pause for a few seconds at the bottom, get that stretch, and then come back up. That's what Dante of DC Training had people do. I always believed in coming down for a nice slow stretch. I didn't hold the stretch. Then I came right up and squeezed at the top, got a nice stretch again. I would really only hold the stretch after the set was done. After all my calf sets were done, I would stretch my calves. I would get up on a block, put one calf up on the block, let my body weight come down, stretch that one calf all the way down. So my heel would come down below the top of that block. And I would hold that for 30 seconds and I would switch. But yeah, you definitely want to get a full range of motion on calves. I think obviously calves are quite a genetic muscle group. If you have very high calves, very high insertions, you're not going to have a lot of tissue to work with, a lot of muscle cells, as opposed to someone who is gifted with a low calf insertion where the calves insert way down near the ankle. For them, a lot of those people don't even train calves and they have big calves just from walking around, just from any ancillary work it gets from their other leg training, from squats and leg presses. But if you're not one of those people, and most of us aren't, you do need to train them. Full range of motion, get a good stretch on every rep. I don't think you necessarily need to hold the stretch, but come up and make sure you get a full contraction, squeeze. So these little bouncy reps, the only purpose time I would feel that they have a legitimate value and purpose, a time and a place, is at the very end of a workout. Sometimes I would get up on a block and just do little short bouncy reps out of the bottom, maybe like 20, 30, get off for a second, shake them out, get back up, and then just do the top, just do the flex, little short reps, flexing the calves, a couple inches, do as many of those as I could to burn out. And then after that, I would stretch them out again, one calf at a time. Off topic, very off topic. Good Vito seems to be coming strong. Yeah, I hope Good Vito, because, yeah, well, I don't know if he'd be rookie of the year. For rookie Rookie of the year, to me, you have to be an actual rookie. It's your first pro season, but he could be the breakout star of 2025. The way that Martin Fitzwater was the breakout star of 2024, even though Martin was not a rookie by any means. You know, Martin's been around for a few years now, but this was Martin's year. Martin he knocked it out of the park this year. Won the Detroit Pro, won the Prague Pro, took second to Nick Walker at the New York Pro, and a good argument could have been made that he should have won that show. You know, Nick had him in size, sheer mass, but Martin had him in condition. He had him in shape. It was a hell of a fight. So props to Martin, man. It was a great year for Martin. And then, of course, fourth place in the Olympia. You know, his first Mr. Olympia competition, fourth place. And it was so impressive that a lot of people believed, you could argue, he should have beaten Derek Lunsford, who was the reigning Mr. Olympia, and knocked him out. Yeah. So congrats, Martin. Martin is my breakout star of the year for 2024. A couple weeks on Power Hour, Giles and I will be doing top 10 stories of 2024. So looking forward to that, because it's been a pretty eventful year for bodybuilding. I think you guys will agree. We had some crazy stuff happen. If you guys can think of any other stories, these are the ones. I'm going to say the stories I have so far. Nick Walker withdrawing from the Olympia. These are not in chronological order. Nick Walker withdrawing from the Olympia. Everyone firing Matt Jansen. That was a huge story. Chris Bumstead retiring and then doing an open show, the Prague show. That was huge news for us. The Olympia, Mr. Olympia, at the last minute, upping the prize for first prize, the cash prize, to $600,000. The Arnold Classic announcing that in 2025, they had already bumped it up to $400,000 the year before. 2025, they're going to bump up first prize to $500,000. Hani Rambod retiring from coaching, not retiring completely, of course. He's still very busy with his supplement company, Evogen, and I do believe he's going to be coaching in terms of an app or certification, something where he's going to be able to reach a lot more people and help a lot more people than he was one-on-one coaching these athletes. The Mike Van Wyck, Jeff Nippard incident, assault, whatever you want to call it. Big news for us for a good week or so. I don't know if I want to count Wes Watson. I don't know if he's really one of us. His whole downfall. I don't think I will. We had some deaths in the industry. Ilya Golem was only 36. Big Lenny, huge YouTube sensation. Samson Dauda switching to his wife Marlena for his coach, and then going on to win the Olympia. That was pretty amazing. That was a huge story. And back in the springtime, Michael Daboul, top Olympia level classic physique pro, was savagely beaten by a few guys backstage who were working security for one of the Two Bros Pro shows over in the UK. So those are my stories for now. If you guys have any ideas for more big news items that you'd like to see covered or deserve to be covered in that episode that we're going to do in a couple weeks, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions about leg training. If you're not watching this live, I'm always happy to answer any questions in the comment section. So hit me up, guys. That's what I'm here for. Appreciate you watching, as always. And that's it. I'll talk to you all next time right here.